Hi, have you recently gone through a loss of a loved one and still going through it, feeling the grieving process? Hi, today we're going to be talking about moving forward from that loss, from that grief. So hi, I'm Steffi from across the pond and back, and much of what I've been talking about in my videos is about my experiences of being an expat in USA and coming back to the UK. But today my own personal journey was coming to my mind a lot, and so I wanted to come to the gardens here where I used to sit with my dear mom in England, in Kent here where she was living, and I wanted to come here and remember her as I do this video. So welcome, and I'm going to offer some practical ways of moving forward. So the title of the video is Moving Forward, because during my own grief journey, when I first lost my hubby, and even before when he actually left the earth, I was preparing in my mind and heart for it because he had brain cancer. And so it wasn't unexpected. It was hoped that he would be with us, of course, but at the same time it wasn't a big shot like, say, a road accident or something. So in my heart and mind I was preparing, and I almost felt like I started my grieving process months before he actually left, because I knew it was coming. And he, towards the end, my dear hubby, lost his speech for the most part. The brain tumor actually affected it was on his right side of his brain, and so it affected most of his speech, which before his illness, he had a definite gifting of sharing. And he used to share a lot from scripture and the Bible, so it was a very important part of his life to be speaking and communicating to people. He was very good at that. And so for the end of his life there, it was a big change for all of us, and especially me as his wife. But going back to the beginning of what I was saying about the title, I'm calling it Moving Forward because quite a few times people have said about, well, we need to move on. Well, I know what they're saying, and most people mean very well when they say that. They mean you well. If we have real, genuine friends and family, they mean you well when they say that, but there is a subtle difference, I think, between moving on and moving forward. And this is what I'm going to chat about this afternoon. It's a beautiful day, and we try and make the most of it in England when we get a sunny day and go out somewhere or do something. So I'm going to start sharing some practical ways that I have learned how to move forward. And so here's number one. So moving one, the first thing that I wanted to say was that there seems to be the tendency to feel guilty when we're thinking about moving forward. We will never move on, so to speak, from our loved ones. If they were our wife, husband, our mother, father, and our child, or any dearly loved friends, they will always be a big part of our lives. And so when they leave this earth, a big part of that jigsaw gets removed. So I have experienced sometimes that feeling of feeling guilty about moving forward, and I should not. I had no reason to feel guilty at all. I should be doing that. I know my late hubby would want me to do that. He would not want me to be in the house, isolated, away from people and things, and not doing too much, just grieving. And in no way, please know, quick disclaimer here in this video, that I am not saying that there is an important time when people need to grieve. I think it's a very good, healthy thing to grieve, to cry, to express emotion, to share. But there is a moving forward that we must get to, I believe, eventually. So this time scale will be different for different people, of course. For me, my hubby died in October 22, and I had to make some decisions fairly quickly about coming to England because my mum was getting on in years, and I had been conscious all the time that I was taking care of my hubby. I had to juggle the two aspects of my life at that time. I was juggling my husband's illness, knowing that it was most likely going to be soon, and it was a terminal illness. He was in hospice care at home, which, by the way, we have an excellent hospice team there. I'm going to give a shout out to them because they were so wonderful. Emerald Coast Hospice, I might have that wrong now, but they were excellent. Thoroughly recommend them in Pensacola, Florida. But I had to juggle those two aspects of my life with the upcoming grief of my husband leaving, and then knowing that my mum was getting on in years. Now, we were hoping, as we all do with our loved ones, that they'll stay with us as long as possible. But I knew that eventually my mum would be coming to the close of her years here on this earth. And so I was very conscious of that fact that I needed to make a decision and get back to England pretty quickly. It was a big decision. I asked lots of friends, and I came to the thinking that I need to do it if I'm going to do it. So we made the move with the help of my son and various different, very good friends, and my daughter. So I digress a little bit here, but moving forward is a different thing from moving on. So we will never forget our loved ones. How can we, and why would we? Why would we feel the need to? If we ever have new people coming into our lives and they truly cared about you, they would not expect in a million years for you to move on from that person in your heart, in your memory. There's a place for that loved one right there, and that's where they deserve to be. So with my hubby and my mum, they obviously have a special place in my heart. No one can ever change that, and moving forward is not changing that. It's moving forward. It's taking another step in my life to see what God has for me in my life. So I hope that makes sense a little bit. There is a bit of a difference there. So moving forward from loss. So I am going to offer a few handy practical things that some of them I've actually done myself, some of them I haven't. So just making up some kind of memory box. So I'm sure that anyone who's lost their spouse or their parents or children will have that person's belongings around. How long they stay around is largely up to that person and their journey and what they're doing and how they feel and whether they're going to move house or anything like that. So assuming that you still have your loved one's belongings around, I think it's a very good idea to make a set box or a place at least where you keep some really special things. So when you feel very sad and you're missing them, you could perhaps go to that memory box, open it up and look at some pictures again. And it's surprising how much a picture or a little memento of that person, your loved one, can invoke such an amazing mixture of emotions, but sometimes brings a smile to your face as you'll remember the memory behind that object. For example, my husband, he often used to say, I want to grow veggies. And we had quite a good little area at the back there in our yard. And so we started to grow some zucchinis. So anyone who's been living in Florida or visited knows all about the sun and all about the good growing climate up until about August, maybe July, and then it gets scorching hot. But we managed to grow these huge zucchini. I mean, they were just sometimes this big, and we had a big surplus of them. So my husband had a brilliant idea of getting on his trike and going around putting all of these huge zucchinis in his trike and in the basket, and then he would just literally go around the neighborhood and hand them out. That was Tom. That was my hubby. That was his heart. Makes sense, doesn't it? What do we need all those zucchinis for? We can only eat so much zucchini. So we were blessed with all of that. So that's a memory, and I keep those kinds of pictures around, just to remember, because it's easy after a while we get kind of bogged down with the everyday life, or we might actually forget. So even if they're happy memories, we tend to forget sometimes. So that's one thing that I would suggest. Another thing is planting a tree. It sounds a bit unlikely for some people, but when I was working in Florida at the school, they were so very sweet and compassionate and kind to me. They gave me a good amount of time off to grieve the loss of my husband, and at that time they told me that they had decided to plant 10 trees in memory of my husband, which I was just bowled over by that. I was just so amazed at their thoughtfulness and the wonderful prospect of that happening. So I haven't actually seen where the trees are yet, because they're in Florida and I had to go. But when I get back there, I'm going to ask where they are and go and see them. But something physical like that can maybe help a lot. So we know that our loved one isn't there, essentially, but it's something tangible that we can go and see and look at. And that's partly why people go, isn't it, to visit the burial ground, or the site where our loved ones are. But planting a tree is a living thing, and we can see it grow, and we could put a plaque there as well, and we can have that kind of a sign to our loved one as something special. All right, another thing that I've noticed that is very much like a healing salve on my heart is telling stories. I enjoy a good story myself, and I love to share stories with people about what my mum said or did, or what my hubby said or did, or what he was like, and some things that we went through together in our moving around. So yeah, telling stories to people can be very healing, I've noticed. And also it helps to keep the memory alive, and it helps for us to keep moving in that reality of them not being here anymore. For those of us who have a faith in God, we can happily know that we will see our loved ones again. If they were believers and we're believers, we will see them again, but it doesn't take away the hurt, of course. But in the meantime, I believe that telling stories and sharing like that to different people, spontaneous type stories oftentimes are the best. That can be a big help. Okay, so another interesting one that I actually read about, but I thought, that's an interesting idea. I haven't done it myself, but you could make a kind of a scholarship. And what I mean by that is, if you live in the local area where your loved one was still, or your mother, you could possibly donate some money to that school and say, I'd like to give this in the memory of my dear mum or my dear hubby or wife, and just request that possibly could you just please spend this on this, or what do you need for the school, something like that could possibly be linked to that person in some way. In my mother's case, she actually saved a person's life in the water. I think she was about 16, and she did some life saving. She swam and saved someone's life and brought them to the shore. She got a silver cup as a little reward. So that kind of thing, I could say, well, could we please, have a visit from such and such a charity, life-saving charity type thing. Just some ideas that I'm throwing out, really. Or books around that subject, or something like that would keep the memory of your loved one alive. Okay, another nice thing that I like to do from time to time, I don't do it that much, But it's surprising when we're feeling sad or even crying or mourning, missing that person terribly, often a song can help a lot. And I've seen this with various different friends who've had a bereavement or have experienced some grief, that they might put a piece of music on, but actually literally singing, the physical part of singing can actually be a healing process too, and it can move us forward. So all of these little steps that I'm mentioning can help to move us forward, I believe. One of our family type songs that we used to sing, it was actually started with my nan, and then my mum kind of picked it up, and I probably will now. It's probably a very English song. It goes, I like a nice cup of tea in the morning. I like a nice cup of tea with my tea. And when it comes to bed, there's a lot to be said for a nice cup of tea. So my mum we used to end up singing this together. I know it's cheesy, but it means a lot to us. It means a lot to me, and it brings that memory back to my mum fresh. I can hear her singing it, and it brings a smile to my face. Doesn't mean that I'm forgetting her, doesn't mean that I care for her any less. It means that I'm actually managing to keep hold of the reality, which we have now, that she's not here. All right, so going on to the kind of scholarship-y type of thinking. What about giving to a charity that your loved one was actually interested in, or had a passion for, or even worked for? My mum used to work in the thrift store in Devon, where she lived for many years, and it was actually an air ambulance thrift store. So depending on where you are and what maybe your loved one's passions were, you could think about that one, maybe giving some of your time to that in the name of your loved one or in memory of them, something like that. Sharing with our grandkids. So obviously I'm talking to older people with grandkids. So if you are younger and you haven't got there yet, sharing with your own children can be such an amazing something that you can pass on. It definitely is. I've noticed the value of memories being shared through stories and things. So please pick that up if you've never tried it. If you have your grandchildren around, pick those memories up of their granddad or their uncle, whoever it is, and almost anything will do. I think I've noticed just the most ordinary stories, if we share them with children, surprising how much they remember. Because when it comes down to it, amidst all the screen time and all the different technologies kids have nowadays, they still have that human need. They have that human need for memories and communication and things making sense with people. And I hope that makes sense to who I'm talking to. All right, so last couple of things. So light a candle. So I know that candles, we often think of places like a church or Christmas or things like that, but it's amazing how therapeutic looking at a candle can be. And so that's another suggestion anyway, that you might like to just maybe pick up occasionally. Again, when we're moving forward, it's useful to remember why we're moving forward. What are we doing this for? Why don't we just sit in our homes and be quiet and be sad? We're not going to do that because we have a lot to give ourselves. So I guess you can take this as a small little friendly loving pep talk as well, but believe me, it's your decision and your choice, and I totally get that different people have different levels of ability to cope with grief. So I'm not in any way demeaning a grief time, please know that. So one last thing, really, we can do a lot by helping other people. even if it's not connected with them going through some grief, we can reach out. We can say, you know, would you like some help with this? Or there was an occasion the other day when I had the opportunity to help an older lady, and I was just, it was a small thing. I'm not in any way boasting about it, just sharing that I wanted to just be there for her in that small little time of her life. And it actually benefits me as much as it benefits her, ironically. So it's more blessed to give than receive. Oftentimes I've seen that happen in my life. So I'm glad that I've been able to share with you guys without, you know, feeling too overcome with my own tears. I'm sitting here in the gardens where I used to sit with my mum. I persuaded her to come out here. She lived in towards the end of her life, she lived in an assisted living place, and it was fine, you know, it was comfortable, very comfortable for her, but she was a bit reluctant in the end to come out of her flat, and I used to encourage her to come out here. So I'm now here just sharing with you guys, and not knowing who, maybe one day I might be able to help somebody with this video. I'm hoping that I already have, and I hope that I can be a blessing to many to share. And if you have any thoughts or feelings about what I've said, please mention it in the comments below. I'd be glad to hear from you. As I've said before, this is a community channel, hopefully, where we share ideas, we share thoughts and feelings, and laughs, sometimes tears. And to anyone out there who I know or don't know who's been bereaved recently or even a few years back, time does not change too much. I know this is another thing that you might hear a lot when you've gone through a grieving process, is all time will heal. But I think there's a truth to that in a sense, in a degree, but it doesn't change too much. It only lets that memory go down the road a little bit. It doesn't change the hurt. So I can literally be going around my day or walking outside, and then I cry because I'm missing my hubby or my mum. So I know how it feels, and I hope these few little things offering up will help someone. And bless you all, God bless you. And I'm hoping that maybe my other video, Married to Widow, might help somebody. They're the things that I miss mostly, but there's a ton of things that I miss. But I am moving forward, and I'm moving forward to see what God has for me, and I'm moving forward, not moving on. So I bring with me the dear memory of my hubby and my mum as I go. So I will look forward to seeing you in any other videos. Cheerio for now.